All right, everyone, get ready because we are diving deep into the world of Bitcoin today.
Sounds good to me.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about uh, Bitcoin's price.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it so high? Why is everyone so obsessed with it?
Big question.
Yeah,
Lots of people talking about it these days.
I've got a ton of research here,
Oh, yeah.
a whole stack of it, from like economic principles to global trends.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so basically we've got everything we need here to figure out why this digital currency is making headlines constantly these days.
I'm excited to see what you've got.
Yeah, so like, is it really digital gold or is it just hype?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or I guess the several $1,000 question, at least.
Right,
Controlling
exactly.
it.
Day. You know what I think is so interesting about Bitcoin is that people aren't just talking about it,
Mm-mm.
like in terms of the price. I mean, they're talking about it on a philosophical level.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what does Bitcoin even mean? What is value?
Yeah, I mean, it really gets into some fundamental questions about money and value and, I mean, and really like the role of government and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's a really big conversation.
It is.
So one thing that I saw a lot in the research was
Yeah.
this whole thing about Bitcoin's scarcity,
Right.
like how there are only 21 million that will ever exist.
Right, it's built in, like right into the code.
It's like a digital version of a limited edition collectible.
Well, it's more than just a collectible, though, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that built-in scarcity, much like gold, it's
Mhm.
intentional, right? And it reflects a certain philosophy
Yeah.
that challenges this idea of unlimited money creation.
Oh, interesting.
You know, thinkers like those in the Austrian School of Economics,
Hmm.
they've argued for a long time for a monetary system rooted in tangible assets
Right.
with inherent value, you know?
Yeah.
Bitcoin, in a way, embodies that concept.
So it's not just about supply and demand.
Wah-wah.
There's this whole philosophical layer to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But basic economics does play a role. I mean, you have limited supply and rising demand. That's kind of a classic recipe for a price surge.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen these really big players jumping into Bitcoin, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Tesla, Square.
Huge companies.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, like, what do they see that maybe the average person doesn't?
Well, I mean, it's tough to say for sure, right? But, you know, institutional investment like that,
Mm-hmm.
it injects massive capital into the market.
Right.
So that impacts the price for sure.
Yeah.
But it also signals a shift in perception, right? Because they're basically betting on Bitcoin's future,
Right.
which legitimizes it in a way as an asset class.
Yeah, like they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
And speaking of future bets, we have to talk about this idea of Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
One of the articles I read compared it to a pie that can't be divided into smaller pieces.
I get the analogy, but it's a bit oversimplified, you know?
Yeah.
Think of it this way. With traditional currencies, governments can print more money, right? And that can decrease its value over time.
Yeah.
And that's inflation.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's fixed supply. It's designed to resist that. So
Yeah.
this appeals to people who are worried about their savings losing purchasing power over time.
So it's kind of like this idea that your Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin,
Exactly.
but its value relative to, say, the dollar could go up.
Right, because there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
But wouldn't government regulations stifle the innovation that makes Bitcoin attractive?
That's a big debate, right? I mean, governments are increasingly starting to recognize and regulate cryptocurrency.
Okay.
And that can bring legitimacy and stability, which some investors welcome,
Mm-hmm.
but others worry it undermines the whole decentralized, anti-establishment ethos
Right.
that drew them to Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah, because part of the appeal of Bitcoin is that it's not controlled by
Right.
any one government.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a trade-off, security versus freedom.
Exactly. And the outcome is far from certain. I mean, it's really a fascinating space to watch.
Yeah.
But regulation isn't the only factor driving Bitcoin's price.
Okay, so what else is there?
Well, remember those safe haven quality?
Right, like how some people call Bitcoin digital gold.
Exactly. So during times of global crisis, like pandemics, political turmoil,
Mm-hmm.
people want assets that hold their value.
Yeah,
And historically, gold has played that role.
right.
So Bitcoin, being decentralized and scarce, is seen by some as a modern alternative.
Oh, okay, so like when everything else is going crazy,
Yeah,
Bitcoin is this safe place to put your money.
that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay. So then that kind of brings us to another point.
Yeah.
Bitcoin operates without banks or intermediaries.
Right. Decentralization is core to Bitcoin.
Yeah. So does that impact its price?
Well, sure, cutting out the middleman can make transactions faster and cheaper, potentially.
Okay.
But it also contributes to price volatility.
Right. That's what everyone's always talking about.
Yeah.
The volatility, the roller coaster.
Exactly.
So are there any ways to predict those price swings?
Well, some people try, right? I mean, a single news headline, a social media trend, even a celebrity tweet can send prices soaring or plummeting.
Really?
Yeah, it's a highly speculative market driven by rational and emotional factors.
So it's like, is Elon Musk going to tweet about Bitcoin today?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that kind of thing can really move the market.
That's crazy.
It is pretty wild.
So I was looking through the research and I saw some stuff about moving averages and Bollinger Bands.
Yeah, those are technical indicators.
Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, so traders use these tools to try and predict price movements.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like a moving average,
Yeah.
it smooths out price data over a specific period,
Okay.
and that can help identify trends.
Okay.
And then Bollinger Bands, they measure price fluctuations against a statistical average.
Okay.
So they can highlight periods of high or low volatility.
So they're kind of like tools that give you a little more insight into how the market's moving.
Yeah, exactly. But of course,
Mm.
they're not perfect. There's no crystal ball in this market.
It still feels like you're on a roller coaster, even if you have these tools.
Yeah, it can be a wild ride for sure.
Totally. And then on top of all that, you have to consider the global economy,
Oh, yeah.
like inflation rates, interest rates, geopolitical tensions.
That's right. I mean, the whole world is connected.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
It is, but it's important because all of those global trends can influence investor behavior.
Mm.
And sometimes they drive people towards assets like Bitcoin,
Okay.
especially when traditional markets look a little shaky.
Interesting.
But then other times, positive economic news might lead them back to those more familiar investments.
Right, because those might feel safer in that moment.
Exactly, exactly.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot here.
We have.
Scarcity, philosophy, big investments, inflation fears, government regulation, the safe haven appeal, technical analysis, global events.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it all ties back to Bitcoin's price.
Yeah, it's a fascinating web of interconnected factors.
And that's what makes it so hard to predict the future, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the appeal.
But it makes it really interesting, too.
For sure, the future of Bitcoin is a giant question mark.
Yeah.
But by understanding these factors, at least you're better equipped to navigate this complex and evolving world.
Exactly. So, to everyone listening, where do you think Bitcoin is headed?
Good question.
It's something to think about. And remember, in the world of crypto, knowledge is power.
Could not agree more.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.
I'll be here.
All right, see you later.
See ya.